is a call to learn. We are going to learn about Lord of the Flies Chapter 2. And just as Lord of the Flies Chapter 2 started with the sound of a shell, so shall we start with that. It was an exciting chapter, wasn't it, students? So here we have at the beginning of Fire on the Mountain, a group of boys meeting to discuss how they are going to create the order of their own government, their own civilization on this new island. So here I have in front of you some observations that I have from this chapter, and I'm going to go one by one, discuss those, and then talk about what is the purpose of this chapter, what is William Golding doing, and then leave you with some questions as I did for our last visit. So Fire on the Mountain begins with them establishing order, and it takes several pages to do that. Essentially, if you hold the conch shell, then you can speak, and Ralph is in charge of giving out the conch shell to whoever will get to speak. But then we start having some interesting things happen. Notice at the bottom of page 34 that our friend Ralph is adamant that this is a good island. He says, but this is a good island. We, Jack, Simon, and me, we climbed the mountain. It's wizard. There's food and drink and blah, 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 blah. And then at the top of page 35, this is our island. It's a good island. Until the grown-ups come to fetch us, we'll have fun. And then Jack wants to talk. So Ralph is adamant that this is a good island. And then as soon as he does that, the kid with the mulberry birthmark comes forward, reluctantly. And he can't even speak. He has to speak through Piggy. And he says that there's a snake thing on the island. Now, you remember from our notes that snakes are oftentimes representing evil, all the way back to the Garden of Eden. That has been the assumption of that archetype, is that it's up to no good. So we have the snake thing. But then the snake thing, that's not enough. It turns into a beastie, and then eventually into a beast. And every single time that this boy brings it up, guess who is there denying its existence? Ralph. Now, you might think that Piggy, the voice of reason and logic, would be the one denying the existence, but no, it's Ralph, the leader. The leader does not want to recognize that there is evil on the island, that there's anything scary and ominous and no good. He wants everyone to be at peace and to be happy and for there to be all good on the island. But no, the boy with the mulberry birthmark insists he saw a snake thing. And then he saw a beastie. And then he saw a beast. You'll notice that Ralph says, 5, 6, 7 times, but there isn't a beast, or but there isn't a beastie, but there isn't a snake at the bottom of page 36, but there isn't a beast on 37, but there isn't a beast. I tell you, there isn't a beast. Adamant. Now, why is that? That's a good question to ask. Why is it that the leader does not want there to be evil? For not that there isn't any, but he doesn't want anybody to even consider that there's evil. Now, on page 37, we have Ralph, after this little debacle about the beast, he establishes 2 purposes that they're going to have on this island. And so one might ask, since this is a microcosm, is this kind of the purpose of mankind? Is this our condition, our human condition? He says we want to have fun and we want to be rescued. Is this what human beings want? Do we want to have fun and be rescued? Is that what we are after in our human condition, or is there something else? But that's what he says, and he gets great applause as he gives this little speech about the fact that they will be rescued. And then on page 38, they kind of break up to go up the mountain. And it says very distinctly, right after a dash is like a hyphen, but a little longer. It's a punctuation mark. It says, following Jack, right in the middle of page 38. So here you see things starting to break up, where instead of following Ralph, the boys, as soon as Ralph leaves the meeting, all of them follow Jack except Piggy, who lags behind and says, bunch of kids, that's what he calls them, right? You'll see then that there is some thievery, some pilfering. They purloin or they steal Piggy's specs. Jack grabs it right off his face. He says, my specs, and then they use it to light the fire. Stealing, that's something that obviously goes against law and order, or at least the kind that we would expect. And so here they're breaking things up in that way. Then we have something really interesting that happens on page 42 after the fire and everything. Piggy starts to lecture the boys, and Jack says, well, a lot of help you were, right, in building the fire, because Piggy wasn't able to do that much. And Simon defends Piggy. Did you catch it? It's on page 42 toward the top. It says, a fat lot you tried, said Jack contemptuously. You just sat. And then it says this, we used his specs, said Simon, smearing a black cheek with his forearm. He helped that way. And then actually Piggy shuts him up. But we see that there's something about Simon who recognizes the good in someone else. Simon is a different character altogether. And for him to speak out against the character who is kind of obviously breaking the rules and leading people astray, he is willing to confront the evil in Jack. And that's going to not be good later for him. Jack ironically expresses the English superiority at the bottom of page 42. He says, I agree with Ralph. We've got to have rules and obey them. After all, we're not savages, we're English. And the English are the best at everything, so we've got to do the right things. Showing that sometimes in society, the people who are in leadership say things, but then they don't necessarily follow through with the things that they're telling other people to do. You see that with Jack here, saying they've got to do the right things, but as the book continues, he will not be doing those. Piggy, his parental side comes out in this tirade. The logic and the reason of parents comes up, and Jack continuously tells him to shut up. And then finally, there's this realization at the end of the chapter that they're missing someone, the boy with the mulberry birthmark. And we can assume at this point that he has died in the fire. We have our first death, physical death on the island. Very sad. And that's where the chapter ends, quite sadly and dramatically. So what's the purpose of this chapter? Well, first of all, it's there to show desire for order. The boys want order. And just like human beings, we want order. We want to establish order. We want systems of safety and order. We want that. But then we see a lack of an ability to maintain that order, just like in society. Oftentimes the order is overrun or corrupted or perverted in some way, and we see that in the chapter. We see an establishment of evil on the island, but it is projected out. The boys, none of them consider, hey, maybe it comes from us. Maybe we're the problem. No, it's out there on the island. It's that beast, that snake thingy that's out there. That's the issue. And then we show Piggy's alienation. He's being alienated. He's being pushed aside. He's being rejected. And what's being rejected then? Is it logic and reason? Since that he is the character of reason and logic and parental thinking, and it's being rejected totally. Finally, these things are breaking up. Things are not going as planned. Things are declining. There is a decadence that is overcoming the high ideals of these boys, that they want order, but it's not lasting. So I leave you with some of these questions as we continue reading. First of all, how is the behavior of the boys like the fire? Because remember, fire is a concrete image, something you can see, you can feel, and every chapter has some concrete image. What is that fire reminding you of in the human condition? Is it anger? Is it our when we experience something we like that's wrong, we feel this craving, just like the fire craves the wood, craves the dead wood. So what is that fire there for? Why does social order break up? Is it a systemic issue? Is it having to do with systems? Or does it come from individuals? Or is it some combination? Remember, Golding is wrestling with these questions. And then finally, what is humanity's condition? Are we just creatures that want fun and we want to be rescued? If we want to be rescued, what from? Society? From ourselves? From other people? Is it something else? What is the human condition? We need to ask ourselves that question as we continue the story of the microcosm that Golding is creating. I hope this has been helpful, and let's keep reading and keep enjoying. I would send you off with another blow of the conch shell, but I'm not going to do that because I'm just not. Have a great day.